What up, what up? It's your boy Cam Meekins. It's the Cam Meekins Show. In here with Carter Reeves.
Here.
In person. Woo. If you can tell, things are a little different. It's a good vibe in here. I was telling him that I did 23 shows over Zoom, and now this is my first one in person, so I'm just trying to figure out how to do this. But what's going on, bro?
Casa de Cam, baby.
You know it. You know it. How you feeling, man?
I'm doing great. This guy's got the plethora of drinks on lock, so I'm well hydrated. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I wanted to just have the hospitality aspect down a little bit, you know?
Yeah, except
I've been looking forward to this moment for like 6 months.
Yeah, and you forgot my rider, bro.
Yeah, my bad.
The whole list of shit.
The green M&Ms, the fucking... What was your rider, dude, in the touring days?
Good question. We tried to play it. We didn't have much like bougie asks.
Yeah.
We had one bougie ask, but it was like, what are they called? Cliff bars.
Okay.
Banging. We would do avocados so we can make our own guac.
Okay.
Chips, salsa, pack a local beer. Always. That was fucking fun.
I like that.
Because you could do like a little, you get a taste of the flavors from all around around the country. The bougie ask was a pack of Nike mid-calves everywhere we went.
Okay. What was the percentage success rate on that?
75%.
That's pretty good.
I would come home with like a trash bag full of socks.
I was when I was on the touring vibe, I was hitting Walmart probably like once a week and just buying new socks and new underwear and just cycling it out like that. And
That's
just
all you really can.
Charging it to the game card.
Yeah.
So, bro, I want to ask you about the new EP first, man, because I was bumping that all morning and that shit is fucking dope, dude. Surfer Girl.
Thank you.
So what inspired that whole project, man?
Good question. It's funny, you caught me at a good time. Well, all right. So the Surfer Girl project, it's a completely new artist, completely new project, new name, new Instagram, new Spotify.
Is it kind of like an alter ego thing, or is it just this is like your thing? This is you now.
So this is where you caught me. So at first, essentially the way it all came about was, I bet maybe the fall before pandemic. That's all I have as like a time.
Yeah.
The before times.
You're right.
My homie was like, yo, you should just start making reggae music again. Reggae music. It's pop music. It sounds very similar to the Carter Reeves project. End of day, it's feel good, beachy summer music. So it's really not that much of a left turn by any means, but kind of like getting back into where the Air project used to be, which kind of like towed this line of hip hop and like reggae, I suppose. Just kind of more of that upstroke stuff. You got 4 on the floor, but it's like 80 BPM. So you're just like really sitting back, super swung out shit. And I kind of did a little research and was like, there's a hole in the reggae market right now. It's a lot of 10-piece bands, or like there's no singular act. Actually, there is. That's a lie. There's Stick Figure and he's killing it, but like he's got a completely different sound. So I was like, all right, how can I bring my pop sensibilities kind of to this industry, which in turn hopefully can circle back to the pop game a little bit. So pandemic hit and I kind of gave it a shot, and it was so much fun. I love writing and producing with a prompt, like go do 10 songs in this style. Like that to me is inspiring, because it's not just like I can do anything. It's like, nah, try this. So I went super hard, made 5 songs. My homie, connected me with a label, and we pitched it to them. Heard nothing from March until August. Then I finally get a call back in August being like, this is incredible. We love this. We want to put it out. I was like, okay, let's fucking go. And at the time I was like, all right, how is this going to exist separately from Carter Reeves? I've worked so hard on this Carter Reeves project for 5 years, like doing the solo thing. I don't want to just abandon it. How do we differentiate? I was thinking crazy ideas, like, do I do the Daft Punk of the reggae world, like fucking wear a brown paper bag over my head and like be something else? Shit. Yeah, or like it's called Surfer Girl. Like, what if the front man was just like a tiki hula girl like the whole way, and then it's like, no, that's way too fucking meta. You're doing way too much.
I like the thought process though.
Thank you. I was trying to get creative. Long story short, ended up that the branding ended up pretty damn similar. Like, it's me, I'm smiling, I'm on the beach, like, hey, what up, summer boy. So the label wanted to, they were like, we love it. The first record kind of taking some jabs at Trump. That was the first song and the strongest song. More so taking a jab at the establishment as a whole. Not necessarily just Trump, although, I mean, fuck Trump. But, so they were like, we want to put this out. Let's get it out. Let's get it out quick. Got it out, put it out. And then, it took me until now to be like, this is working really well. It's blowing up a whole lot faster than the Carter Reeves project is. And this is something I'm inspired again. I want to write this stuff. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I'm producing new sounds and styles that I had never have. So it's feeling like this is like where my heart is right now. So that's why I'm saying you kind of caught me at a good time.
No, it's perfect. Yeah.
Because I just actually came to my own personal realization that like, all right, like, what do I want out of all of this is to wake up every day and make music. How do I do that? What can I do to make sure that that is my reality every day? And like, I have this project that's working really well and it's exciting me and inspiring me. So it's like, don't be a fucking idiot. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not overcomplicated, but the music is fucking great, dude. That's what it boils down to, bro.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's
I think it feels a little more genuine because like I'm writing it and producing it myself, which is kind of like the first time I'm actually doing that. So
so you're in on all the production and everything like that, and you're doing it in a full studio, or you had like a home studio?
No, just at home.
That's
just
fucking
chilling.
sick, dude.
Yeah,
because these are big records. Like
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, bottom line, it's definitely pop records, pop music for sure, but it's kind of got that beachy kind of upstroke vibe to it, but. It was the first time I trusted myself enough to produce everything out myself. And then on top of that, I was like, if we're going to start a new project from scratch, like a new artist from scratch, people don't have anything to compare it to necessarily. Like, it's not like, oh, your quality went way down because like you used to sound like this. It's like, nah, this is what this is. So I kind of, a little bit of a leap of faith, and it seems like it's starting to pay off. So
yeah. Well, it's cool because, I mean, we've known each other for fucking, 11 years now?
Way
probably
back more.
Yeah,
definitely more.
12 years.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe
we both were in the same grade in high school, both the same area, started getting popping around the same time. And I know from my personal experience, I've had these ups and downs of, not feeling inspired, but just moments where I'm more locked in than others. And I feel like I'm getting the sense that you're in that moment where you're locked in.
Yeah.
No,
I feel that way.
And when you're doing this for so long, it's hard to consistently stay on that wavelength.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed about you, knowing you as long as I have, and we don't see each other all the time, but we're running into each other in all these different places. I feel like you're a dude who really is just like about the art. It seems like at the end of the day, like you're just a true musician. I feel like you're living that lifestyle.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So how are you staying? Like what about this project kind of gave you that inspiration here? Again, having been doing this for 12 years or however long it's been.
Yeah. I mean, so good question. I think all it takes is like a shift in perspective. And I think that's what the new project really is doing for me and has done for me. Kind of like revitalized my excitement. Air was the project I used to be, for those who don't know. Air, it was kind of like towed this line between hip hop and pop, but had kind of like reggae, feel good, beachy vibes. Think like Sublime Swayze, but think almost like Red Hot Chili Peppers, but like it was, we got the frat.
It was a blend of a lot of,
for sure.
Well, everybody did it that time.
I know. Literally everybody did.
I kind of love that.
I was okay with it.
At this point, it's like,
I was actually
back,
just talking to someone about this. I was like, that they were like, didn't you fucking hate that? I was like, it didn't bother me. Like,
right.
I was like, I didn't go to college and I wasn't in a frat.
No, same,
so it worked
same.
out for me. Like,
Right.
I'll just ride that wave, I guess. But I prided myself in not having any rules during the Air project. Like, I would rap a verse, like straight up rap a verse, and then I would just do like sing a verse or sing this or sing that or do whatever, contort my voice in weird ways like Anthony Kiedis from the Chili Peppers. I just did what I thought felt right, and I didn't have any expectations on myself, and I just had fun. And then after Air split up, I feel like maybe I put a bunch of, not rules or expectations. I did put rules on myself on the Carter Reeves project. I was like, I'm done like rapping. Like, I don't want to be known as a rapper. I don't want to rap. Like, that's not what I want to do. So I kind of like abandoned the whole like bubba da shit and the whole like, you know, more like rhythmic melodic stuff that you now hear everywhere on every single song. And I kind of like tried to take it full top 40 stadium pop for the first couple releases. And then I realized it wasn't connecting, and I kind of like shifted back, and like I do feel like these past 10 songs that I put out under Carter Reeves, you know, I have a song coming out on Friday, and as recently as 2 or 3 weeks ago, that feels like the most authentically me that it's ever been. But even then, it's kind of like, I want to be this like indie pop cool kid and like, you know, trying to do this and trying to be this psychedelic retro surf rock guy. And it's none of that's to say it's not obtainable. It's just putting rules on yourself or putting that confinement on yourself or saying what you want to be. Sometimes it doesn't translate to who you actually are. So what I loved about kind of just hopping into this kind of reggae pop project is I had zero rules on myself. I just started rapping again. Like, I was doing raps. I was like doing all these crazy harmonies that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise, and like doing all my fast flow shit again, on some twista, slightly stupid bubba da shit. And and I think people heard that and they were just like, whoa, it feels like you're kind of back to it. And I think having fun with it and just being loose with it and not telling myself what I do and do, you know, what I can and can't do, feels like that's translating. That's what's working.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, no, it's dude, you got a crazy flow, bro. I mean, that you know, I've been rocking that shit since we were fucking 18 years old, and I've always felt that was one of the things that, you know, your guys' music when you were doing it together and your solo shit, whatever, is what stands out is the range between doing the melodic shit,
right,
and then being able to come in with a verse that like no one else could really spit a verse like that on a reggae type of beat, you know, and that was what was, I feel like the value proposition in a lot of ways, and early on. Yeah.
And yours, I mean, I agree. And I think then I just was so, I don't want to say stubborn at the time, or just wanted to prove to myself that I could go out there and like do it on my own without riding the coattails of Air, which was obviously a stupid idea because like the shit was kind of popping at the time. Definitely should have rode those coattails a little harder. But to the point where it was like, I've almost stripped out so many of those reasons why people were liking what we were doing in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it took me a really long time to realize that.
Well, I think it's also just like, you know, at the end of the day, like music is a weird thing, man. Sometimes you're just fucking making great shit, and sometimes you're kind of making great shit, and then it comes back, you know. It's like I haven't figured out the, you know, reason why it you know, sometimes you're really in that zone and sometimes you're not.
Right.
And for me, I feel like I try and just at least commit to doing the art form, you know? Like, I've always continued to put music out and make music and working on an album. Like, I'm working towards something that's down the road, you know? But I don't know. There's just so many different factors, I feel like, that determine whether or not you're like really locked in. And for me, it's always about like what's going on in my actual life too, you know? Was it hard for you coming out of the Air split to get in the studio solo, because there's just so much pressure there to be like, all right, now I'm coming out solo and I got to fucking rock? Or
not particularly, honestly, because Dave and I, we were always very open with one another throughout all of Air, being like, yo, you can go produce songs for other people, or like you can, you can sing a chorus for someone else and have it be like featuring Dave of Air or even featuring Air. I was doing guest verses for some people, and I kind of started producing my own stuff. I put out like a rap mixtape in the middle of Air. So we were always pretty open to each other kind of being our own artists. And I just lost my train of thought. What was the question?
No, I was just wondering. No, I was just wondering if, like, from a creative standpoint,
Yes.
after you
Yes.
started, when you first started doing your solo shit,
Right.
It's, was it just all these different thoughts and
Totally. Yeah. No. So I think honestly, because Dave and I felt that we were gonna like stop or take a break. We definitely could feel that in the mood and in the air.
going in that direction.
Yeah. And so I was prepared. I kind of jumped on the opportunity and was prepared to just be like, all right, cool. Let's like fucking go hard. Like, this is not going to stop the story. Let's continue. So, I mean, I was in the studio like a few weeks later. I definitely do remember writing my first song, Fresh Fruit, with Jared Evan in his New York apartment and being like, how do I want to write this? And I remember being like, well, I want the lyrical content to feel and sound like maybe a more mature continuation of Air, but still like you listen to the first song and it's like, I got the mixed drinks, I'm pouring up. I got a little fresh fruit on a sunny day, like all that kind of just feel good shit that we were known for. And so the first song did very, very well. But I think that's when I got in my head after that. Because I think I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. Or like, this is going to be just like the Air trajectory, which was like pretty much upward from the beginning.
Right.
So I was like, sick. And then I was like, I guess all I really need now is just like a catchy top 40 record. So I started making those. And I was making like stadium pop wannabe Bruno Mars shit when I didn't have the fan base that A, wanted to hear that, and B, was like big enough to support that. So I mean, like, you can have up and comers putting out pop smashes and no one's ever gonna hear it.
Well, and also, if you don't have like the fucking label that's behind it too, with that type of music, I feel like it needs to get put in fucking Target.
Totally.
And, like people need to hear that shit on the radio.
You can put out a pop song that's the best, most well-written, incredible hit that I've ever heard, and it can go unheard for life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Drake could put out the watered-down, most garbage, shitty version of the same song. Let's say he just lifts the hook and then does like way worse verses.
Right.
And it'll be number one for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have the infrastructure. I didn't have the fan base that wanted to hear that. And so I think what was interesting about that is like, that's when I started getting in my head. Once it was already out and I was trying to make it work,
right,
that's when I had to like look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the wave right now.
It's kind of a universal law too, not just with music or anything, dude. It's like there's talent is a small portion of it, unfortunately.
Right.
And it, there's some of the best fucking basketball players might be, sitting somewhere in some town and never get a shot at playing in the league, or, some fucking amazing songwriter. And a lot of times too, with the talent stuff, as you probably have seen in this game too, it's like, I mean, the best artists that I know, the writers and people like that, are these behind the scenes dudes that are getting, 10K checks here or 15K checks here, and they're getting kind of like taken advantage of by the game, the music industry, to write these smashes that like, some pop star will sing or something like that. Like my boy Jeffro is like the fucking Berkeley School of Music, like classically trained musician. Like you could tell that kid like, hey, play something in D minor on any instrument. He'll be like, cool,
just
word.
whip it up.
Like, and man, like you see that shit and you're just like, dude, like the world needs to know how talented this dude is.
Right.
But then you realize as you like keep doing this shit that, there's a lot of talented people out there in every industry, every world. And that's not the determiner of whether they get out to the world. And, that's kind of sad to think about, but it's also just a good reminder to be like, so, you need to kind of have that balanced approach to it all.
Yeah. I mean, we both grew up on the East Coast. We grew up like 2 towns over. My mom, you know, I'm out here in LA trying to make the dreams work, you know? My mom's back at home, and every time we have a conversation, she's just like, listen, what I don't necessarily like or respect about the entertainment industry and the music industry in general is that it's not a meritocracy. It's not a place where people who work their way up and get better at their talent and like slowly level up. Like these, you know, you can gain accolades and keep kind of like leveling up a touch, but that is no guarantee that you're going to get to where you go or where you want to be. And I think for her, she grew up in like the old school system of you entry level, you work your way up, you get recognized, you start working, your pay goes up, then you're good. And so it's so funny now because it's like, yeah, I mean, some talentless rando can stumble across a perfectly well-written song and sing it, and it can go number 1 and they can be a huge hit. Granted, I think pop music now is in a much better place than it's been in the past.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
Because it's like democratized from the new ways that people are discovering music, or
I
why do
definitely
you think that?
the democratization, obviously with like TikTok and just social media in general, like you look at the top 40 and you're like, I recognize 4 out of 40 of these names, whereas 15 years ago it was like, I know everybody on this
That's a
list.
great point. Yeah.
Which is cool. But no, more so I think there's a lot at play, but I think, you know, with finally being able to openly have the conversation about mental health and being, you know, I think with LGBTQ rights, like everything kind of like coming out into the open a lot more than it had been in certainly the 90s and early 2000s. People are being a lot more honest, and I think that is connecting with like much bigger audiences at a much bigger scale than it probably ever has. So yeah, I mean, I think you're always going to have like the bubblegum pop of just like awful lyrics, but it's catchy and who really cares. But you know, I'm seeing so many more artists like truly pouring their souls into these songs, and like they actually are like going to number 1.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool.
No, that's a great point.
It's like it's a nice landscape shift for sure.
Well, I think about when you and I were doing this shit in our fucking bedrooms back in, you know, 2009 or 2010. Like, imagine if we had the ability to kind of show people the process on TikTok and fucking have it go viral one night, and then, you know, the next day you got 10,000 people down to listen to your song. Yeah, it's definitely democratized, you know, your ability to kind of get traction. You know, it's a little bit more of a level playing field, but it's also more competitive too, because now there's, you know, so many more people who are willing to take that risk that you and I did 10, 12 years ago. But yeah, no, I totally agree that it seems like people are able to be more real and vulnerable about, you know, just what's really going on. These things have always been going on, and, you know, people were kind of hiding it a little bit, or, you know, trying to sugarcoat things. I
think too, like that is why we saw a lot of people in kind of like the Juice world and, you know, Uzi kind of catch on so quickly and so rapidly because, you know, there wasn't much, I don't want to say there wasn't much honesty in the rap industry at that time. And I'm not even sure you could classify them as a rap. Like, it is, you know, everything. There are no genres anymore. But I mean, you know, so much of it was this front, and you're kind of like lying. And like, I did that in like so much of my music.
100%,
just like lying about shit that sounds cool and looks cool, and just saying, this is what my life is like, even though your life maybe was like that like one day a year, like 2 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
And I think those dudes kind of started to bring in that like honesty and like, I'm sad, or like, you know, I don't feel good about this, or like I'm worried, or like, and it's like kind of bringing in, you know, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of all like the sad boy shit, but you know what I mean? It was just a new narrative that wasn't heard. And I think that ushered in like, oh, cool, we're all being honest now. Sick. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That particular lane doesn't have to be your shit for the fact that that's going on to be a good thing for the game as a whole.
Right.
Because I think, you know, for us, like, you know, and for the idea of like rapping a verse in general, for the most part, for like the history of rap and, you know, kind of, and even like our kind of more alternative rap, like white boy stuff that
Yeah.
we're doing, right? Like
Yep.
it is a lot of fronting and like faking it up and,
Oh, yeah.
you know, talking shit, which I love some of that because it's like, it's cool to kind of come up with these cool double entendres and, you know, talk shit and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, we should still, you know, see that in rap, but I think it's also cool that it's not all that now.
Right.
It's some people just being vulnerable, talking about real shit. And that's something that, you know, I got a lot of traction. You know, that's the one thing that I think got my music to really go.
Right.
Because I have, you know, so much music. And I'm the type of guy who's like, I'm doing different things just based off of kind of like what I'm into at the moment. And I've never really been able to like zero in on a exact style.
Sure.
Like sonically. Yeah.
Definitely.
And I don't have a problem with that because I like that. You know, I just like doing what I want to do in the studio and stuff like that. But the stuff that, you know, has the millions of streams or whatever it is the shit that was real. It was the shit that was a little bit more deep and honest and vulnerable. And, you know, so I'm very aware that I think, you know, that's what people like the most when they listen to my music is like that vulnerability, you know. And yeah, I think about that all the time when I see just like kind of the trend of that whole thing. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my best performing songs are the ones where I'm saying shit that I wrote and was like, I don't even know if I should write all this.
Yeah,
and then
right.
I did, and now it's the best performing music. So.
Yeah, how does that feel for you when you're vulnerable like that? I mean, even on the new shit too, like you got into some, you know, you were talking about some political stuff, you were talking about some more, you know, personal shit. Like, how do you feel when you're putting that out there? Is it therapeutic for you? Do you feel weird doing it, but then you just kind of let it happen? Like, how do you kind of cross that line?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. To me, it's not that serious. I like to consider myself an open book. If we are talking, I'll be as honest as I can with you, and I'll be
good
straight up with
guest.
you. Yeah, you know, whatever. Just don't no, I got you. Journalism. Come on, Cam.
I'm gonna swing this into a crazy clip, brother.
Oh shit. Yeah, dude. I mean, so like I have always felt like I'm willing to be honest because I don't have really anything to hide. And on top of that, you know, I'm very grateful for, you know, how I was raised and where I was raised. I'm fortunate and I'm grateful, and that is not forgotten on me by any chance, by any means. So, you know, I have. Maybe I don't even have that interesting of a past. That's why I like feel completely willing to be open with this stuff.
Yeah.
And so honestly, the only times in which I am kind of hitting those vulnerable points are more so just like describing relationships and, you know, love, past love and all this shit. And I think the only time I'm maybe apprehensive is if I'm like, I know who I'm writing this about is going to know I wrote it about them.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the only part where it's like, maybe should I make this a little more general?
Right.
Like, is this too specific?
Gonna have to explain that.
But I think those are also like, that's the gold. That's the shit that like those specifics, those very real moments and times. I think that's what people can relate to. So
yeah, when it's real too. I don't know if it's like we deliver it differently or something like that. Like you can just kind of tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What was it like for you? Having success so young.
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was first and foremost a really great time. It was very fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't even looking back on it now, I'm like, damn, that success was crazy for our age and for how almost effortless it felt. And like now it's like, oh shit, I would die to be in that position again. You know what I mean? Like I've been working my ass off now for 6 years to try and get back to that point.
Yeah.
So it's not that we took it for granted, but it was definitely, it felt natural at the time, which was really cool. And it also in the moment, it felt smaller than it really was. And so I think maybe that's kind of like, because it was all a blur, or maybe it was more of like a, you know, not enjoying the journey, just looking at the destination kind of thing. I mean, I remember we would sell out tours at 2,000 cap rooms and be like, sick, that was fun, but the next one's going to be even bigger. And it's like, great, but also like, look at what you just did.
Yeah.
Like, so I think we probably, or at least I personally probably didn't enjoy the ride as much as you would hope one would. I mean, looking back on it, so much fun. Met incredible people, worked with incredible artists, got to see the country, got to see the world, and made money doing it with my best friends. Like, of course I enjoyed it. Like, hands down enjoyed it. But when you're that young, I think you just don't have the full perspective of what it is that's happening. And I think on top of that, you know, our trajectory was met with like not much resistance. You know, for Boston references, like we played Middle East upstairs, you know, a 50 cap room, 100 cap room. And then we sold it out and played Middle East downstairs, a 600 cap room, and sold it out. And then we played the Paradise, which is a 1200 cap room, and played it twice and sold it out the second time, and then moved up to the House of Blues.
Yep.
And it almost felt like that was just kind of the trajectory throughout the whole Air project. So not to say that it felt easy, but it was almost just like that lack of resistance probably didn't teach me the lessons.
You were just like, this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like how I was saying it carried over after Air into the early days of the Carter Reeves project. The first song I put out got playlisted. It, you know, went to the top 10 on the viral charts, US viral charts. And I was just like, sick. This is it.
Right.
And then reality sets in where it's like, all right, maybe, you know, this is going to take a whole lot of work. But I would never, ever in a million years change the way it's all worked out. Because I don't think, you know, I think about this often. If Air had signed when Floats My Boat was popping when I was 19 years old or 18 years old, and we moved out to LA and bought a big house with our label money and started, you know, I don't think that I would be maybe in the best spot. You know, I worry that maybe too much success, too young, too early, like you don't solidify the right values. You don't value a dollar the way you do when you have to work for that shit. And, you know, maybe you get caught up in the wrong scene, wrong time, wrong place. And like, I'm just very thankful that, you know, maybe I didn't get all the success that we could have gotten early, but there's no doubt in my mind that I will eventually. So these past 5 years have just been like experience and like learning lessons, learning what works, what doesn't work, learning and connecting with my fan base on a deeper level. All things that I think are going to be like, that's the recipe for success down the line. I do believe in right place, right time. I do believe in fate and kind of like things happen for a reason. So I think I'm right where I need to be.
Absolutely, man. No, and I can feel the energy that you're in a really good place creatively and just well-rounded, right? And you're right. I think sometimes when shit gets a little too hectic,
Sure,
and especially in like the entertainment world,
of course.
You
LA
know,
18.
Yeah, it's so hard to keep your fucking wits about you.
Right.
Because so many people want to just fucking yes man you, you know, or tell you that like you got to live this fucking crazy lifestyle because it's like the rock star shit. And it's like, yeah, you can do that for so long.
Right.
But eventually you crash hard.
Right.
You know, but it's like when you have a situation where you do that and then you have these different moments and you're doing a new project now and you're kind of continuing to just move forward in a pace where you're understanding kind of like where you're at in the world. You know, I think that's probably more conducive to longevity, first of all.
Right.
It's just a more like well-rounded life.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the pandemic certainly played a part in this. I think for a lot of people, but you kind of start to reprioritize. And this was a conclusion I had been coming to for years, but it's like after Air, I mean, during Air, we were like, we're going to be the next fucking Beatles. Like, we're going to change music forever. You know, of course, not sound like the Beatles, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
no,
you were just fucking amped up.
Stratosphere success, like out of the fucking planet. And then that mindset didn't change after. Like I said, I did that wannabe Bruno Mars shit. I was like, I'm going to be the next Adam Levine. I'm going to be the next JT. I'm going to be the next Bruno Mars. Like, no doubt in my mind. Let's go. And not to say that the lack of massive success on the Carter Reeves project made me like, I mean, it certainly made me come back down to reality a bit, but it's more so like, that's not even what I want. That's not even what I'm here for. And I think that's where we started the conversation of like, if I can wake up another day and like my schedule is spend some family time, you know, make some music, then that's the dream. Like, I don't need a 30-bedroom house. I don't need that. I don't need 6 cars. I'm one person. I can only drive one car. Like, the definition of success has changed over the years. I'm sure that's because I'm getting older, and I'm sure that's because I haven't seen all the success that I thought I would see by now. But you realize that like happiness comes in so many forms, and like you could see the richest guy on the block and he may not be the happiest guy on the block. He's probably not, you know, or she's probably not. So the definition of success has definitely changed for me to the point where success is living comfortably, being able to work on music, and like that's all I really want.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot more easily obtainable than saying, I want to be the next Drake. I want to be as world-renowned as Kanye. Like, I want to be... So...
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we're chasing that shit too, it's like, well, where is that coming from, right? Like, is it? Right. It's like an ego thing or something.
Sure.
Or, you know, like it's not necessarily what really would give us fulfillment. I've had a lot of these conversations on this show, just trying to kind of get to the root of like fulfillment and like, you know, that balance. Because I personally, like, I have that drive. Like, you know, I want this fucking podcast to be the fucking biggest podcast in the game. That'd be fucking sick. Or, you know, I want the next song to be the biggest thing. And I've always had that drive in me.
Right.
But then you realize when, you know, a couple things do start to go in the right direction, you're like, okay, well that felt good, but it wasn't the end all be all.
Right.
You know, there's more to it. Like it's, you know, and I think what a lot of us realize in the pandemic too is like once you start kind of going through some shit, you remember what is important, right? Like this chase that all of us, you know, particularly I feel like in America are on.
Oh yeah.
Of this like, you know, hustle culture, you know, let me have as much money as possible in excess and buy.
Fuck my neighbors.
Yeah,
who cares about them? We're going straight
and it's,
to the
you know,
top.
Yeah, it's like that actually really doesn't get us anywhere. It's like a lonely end game there.
Yeah.
And listen, don't get me wrong. I want, you know, the fucking new whip and, you know, all that stuff. But I think I could just do with like one car, not 6.
What is it? Light your path with the bridges you've burnt along the way. It's like, sure, that's cute. Right. But like, come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Let's there's more to it than that. Like,
yeah. No, and I think it goes back to like, you know, building community and shit like that.
Community. That's the word.
Right.
I mean, that is on a smaller scale, like on a personal scale, I have not felt tapped into a music community the way I was in New York or the way I was even in Boston. And that has left me, I don't want to say musically lonely, but it's like there's something magical in a musical community, pushing and pulling. Hey, have you heard of this plugin? Have you, you know, check out this lick that I just made. Like, what do you think about this song that I wrote? Hey, have you heard this album? Like, there's something incredible about that community. And then I think on a larger scale, like that is what humanity is supposed to be based around.
Right.
And like on a very heady level, I'm getting way more into just learning more about nature and the natural world, and just how like I am not like, yes, I'm a human, and yes, that's a dog, and yes, that's a tree, but like truly this whole fucking thing is just cyclical energy in one spot. Like there is this need to treat everything with respect and everything equally. And so it's coming to a heady late 20s realization of just like, fuck, I don't need all that consumption. I don't need all that consumerism. I don't need all that stuff. I mean, I'm also a realist. Like, I know the world we live in. I know I live in LA. I know, you know, I'm not going to deny reality. I've had the thoughts of like moving out, buying a plot of land in northern Maine and just fucking starting a regenerative farm. Sure. But, you know, it's about finding that balance. And I think I'm kind of just like, opening my eyes to a lot of this shit.
Yeah, I romanticize about just having a place in the middle of nowhere where it's just, one closed loop.
Oh yeah,
with food and resource, all the shit that you would need to do.
The flywheel, bro. It feeds into itself.
Yeah, I think that there's something just really in our basic instincts to live like that.
Yeah,
and in the modern world, it's not really doable,
right?
Unless you really are intentful to go kind of do that. It's a hard thing to live off the grid like that. But if you find that balance, like you're talking about,
right,
puts things into perspective.
You can be fulfilled while still like living in reality.
Yeah.
I think though, the way the stigma on mental health is kind of going away, and there's like a lot of stigmas that are being shattered, which is great. It's funny because if you probably 20 years ago heard people talking the way I was talking, you'd be like, oh, this culty, crazy motherfucker. Right. And like, you hear about people going to live in communes off in the woods, and you're like, that dude went off the fucking deep end.
Right.
Like, that's insane shit.
Some Bhagwan shit.
Right. And so I think as the world becomes increasingly digital, I think there's going to be a much wider adoption of like going back to our roots and like community and all that shit. Side note, have you heard of a mushroom suit?
I have not. What is this?
So you get when you get buried or when you die. I mean, we're getting morbid. Sorry, we'll change.
No, I like this. I like this.
But I hadn't even heard of this until someone said it in a movie, and then I looked it up, and it's fucking fire.
Yeah.
So you get buried in a mushroom suit. So it's like a suit of live fungi.
Okay. And
then it decomposes your body.
Yep.
And turns your toxins into enzymes. So you're essentially you are like, you're not getting put in some plastic casket that's just going to rot underground forever and then your bones just like sit there. You're literally like giving back.
Yeah, you're giving back to the soil.
And you are becoming life in another form. And I think that's a fucking beautiful thing.
No, I like that, man. And you could go really deep with it too, because it is weird, and like consciousness and all this stuff. It's like we don't have these answers, man. And anybody who thinks that like, it's black and white is lying to themselves, I think, like it's complicated.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody watching, hit me on the gram with, I'm sure, bet tons of you guys know way more than what I do and all that stuff. So hit me on gram. Give me some recommendations for books or for podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. I don't want to go too far off the deep end, but just enough to get me going.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get going on this path?
I feel like I was always, when I was like in 7th grade, I was like, ooh, Buddhism, like interests me. So I like read a lot about it, but never really like practiced or done anything like that. But I have so many friends who meditation is like working so well for them. And, microdosing or not even like, microdosing mushrooms that's a natural solution. And now it's being legitimized and like looked at as like cure for depression and cure for a whole lot more. And I think with weed becoming legal and just like, there is so much, just generally the concept of everything we need has always been here and people were living for millions of years. I don't know if the people were living for millions. That's a number
I think that's
were
true.
they?
I think it's true. At least a million.
Bro, my whole timeline's shot.
No,
but
I think humans have been around for like 1 to 2 million years on Earth.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like the modern human.
It's insane.
I think.
But like I've also read People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, which will fuck your mind up and totally send you down this whole maybe cynical path, but also it's nice to open your eyes up, about how industrialization, colonization, industrialization, all of that, is, we're now taking these ancient ways of sustainability and just destroying them and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. So all of that kind of opened my eyes to like solar power, wind power. Why is that not literally controlling the entire Earth right now? Like it makes no sense that is not everything. Like we have everything we need right here, the sun. Like we're good. We already know how to do it. And then you kind of go down the rabbit hole of all the powers that be and like, hey, all right, well.
Well, it's like this path of, let's get there. It's a Cam Meekins show. That's what we do. But, it's the path of least resistance, I feel like, and it just shows you that we're really not that advanced yet.
Sure.
You know, and I was looking at this fucking 60 Minutes video the other day. Did you see this shit about the UFOs? They've been talking about this UFO.
I didn't
UFO
watch
shit,
it, but yeah, like Trump
it's back
slid
in
it
the
in the
news.
COVID bill, and that
Yeah.
they were going to disclose a bunch of shit.
So next month they have to put a report out
Right.
saying
Okay, that's it.
what the fuck it is.
Yes.
Right? And so the Senate asked the Pentagon to be like, what the fuck do you guys have?
Right.
And we probably won't learn
Give us a heads
everything,
up. Yeah.
but a video got leaked, and there's a couple different videos, but there's this one from 2004 where these, ships, these like, whatever they are, aircraft carriers were off the coast of San Diego, and they caught something on the radar that was like moving in this crazy weird pattern.
Sure.
They'd been seeing this for like a week. And then they sent out these fighter jets to go investigate it. And these 2 fighter jets with like 4 people in them saw this whitewater, crazy thing going on in the ocean when it was like calm seas. They were deep out in the ocean, but there was like this crazy thing going on in the water. So they go in and they see this unidentified aerial phenomenon kind of like flying, like hovering above the water, and then it kind of locks on one of the guy's jets. And this is a real army dude saying like this happened.
Yeah.
And there's other people saying it, and the people working on the ship confirmed it with radar data.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sound like a crazy fucking conspiracy
That's what I'm saying. We gotta destigmatize it. You're not crazy. You're just
I'm just
telling
talking.
the truth.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. And so this thing kind of locked onto him, and then just out of nowhere vanished. And then the radar caught it 3 seconds later, 60 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing they saw it do was descend 80,000 feet in a second.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
Right?
I mean, if I were an alien, I'd be chilling in the ocean.
Right.
Like, motherfuckers aren't going to find me there.
Yeah. But so, like, back to the point of the whole, solar and all this shit, it's like, if you were looking at us, right, we're not that advanced yet. Because we're still using the path of least resistance for energy, which is like fossil fuels and like burning the shit and ruining our whole fucking climate, doing it. Right. And so, I mean, if whatever that is, if that is some otherworldly technology that's observing us, I mean, think about how exponentially more advanced they are.
Of course.
Right. And so if, those people are here, or aliens are here, right?
Hope, give us the handout, guys. Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know it's good.
And it just shows you the scale of like, how far society can go and how we are like at the very, very beginning of technological advance.
I mean, yeah, that whole Rick and Morty's so fun to watch because like they just talk about that type of shit like it's nobody, it's like everybody knows what they're talking about, which is so funny. But it's like, yeah, I mean, like you see some amorphous freaking weird little like gaseous being just like float up to us and be like, hi, I'm an alien. You're like, you fucking weirdo, like why don't you have legs and arms? And it's like, because I don't need that. Like we had those like 10 billion years ago, you losers.
Well, that's what I think is complicated about the whole concept is like our idea of what life is relative to us.
So human centric.
Yeah. Right. And whatever else is out there in the universe, I mean, who knows what the fuck that looks like.
Right.
And who knows if these things are coming through, fucking wormholes and then, going back out or like, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to get too deep with it, but it's just like, we don't know shit.
We don't know shit. And we have so many answers in front of us. And I think, I mean, it would be so cool almost to have an alien just pop in and be like, guys, like, yeah, you're doing solar with these cute little panels, but like, look, we've been doing this for millions of years. Here's a netting. You just put it around the atmosphere and it'll charge the Earth for years, and you can actually export all your energy to other planets around you. Oh, you didn't know? There's 50 other planets around you that could use your energy.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, oh, great, thanks.
Cool. Thanks for the heads up.
I think it's like, it's almost something so big and revolutionary like that would change the trajectory of humanity in such a positive way, I think. But also, you can't be just like sitting around waiting for some alien to like give us the
solve all the
keys
answers
to the world. I mean, you got to start on the ground, and you got to start with the small shit. You gotta start.
So, if you're kind of in this,
reel it in.
Let's reel it in.
Reel it in.
Reel it in. I'll try and form a question here. Let me see if I got this new tool here.
Oh, a transition?
No, I just want I feel like
yeah, don't wah us.
Don't hit him with this one.
That feels like it was a whole downer.
Yeah, right. No, let's bring it up. Next phase of the conversation. Next phase. Yeah, no, so I think, with all this kind of openness that it seems you have of the world and your surroundings, and, you seem like you understand that we don't know everything.
Sure.
How do you operate on a day-to-day and kind of make sense of it all in a way that makes you kind of feel good? Is that why you just focus on, like, let me just do my art and do what's important to me, have my community, and be with my loved ones, and do that? Or are you a guy who's super into meditation? Are you like a spiritual guy? Do you subscribe to any religion? Like, what's your kind of path to make sense of all this and give you kind of
I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
And because this has been, again, the pandemic hit hard, especially for creatives, especially people who felt like they had momentum and, had something going. It hit hard. And, again, I'm thankful that I was able to, lay low for a lot of the pandemic and be with family, which not everybody got to do. So I haven't found the path. I mean, it's given me this reflection, and I'm learning so much more, and I'm so much more interested in all of these new things. And I think I'm now coming out of, I don't want to say a dark spot, or maybe a dark spot in thinking about all of this stuff, because it's so heavy. You can't eat fish. You can't eat almond milk because it takes too much. You can't drink watermelon. It takes too much water, man. But then the water, the whole water laws are all fucked up. It's like anywhere you look is fucked up. And so for a while there, I was almost just like, how do you even go against something so large? How do you even begin? And so that is just not the mindset to have. That is not the place to be. You really do need to start small. You really need to, if you want to change laws, start local. If you want to help choose who's in power, who can represent you right, you got to go out there and vote, and you got to tell other people to vote. And on top of that, I think there's so how have I found the path? I'm starting to try and find the path, because these are massive, massive issues that we can all move the needle on if we move together and in unison. And so I think even just having little conversations like this, I think, is the start of that outlet, because, hopefully a couple people are listening to this and going like, he's saying something that I maybe wasn't thinking about or hadn't seen it that way. And again, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it is. I think it's just kind of starting to, again, normalize these types of conversations and be able to get deeper more frequently, so that change is constantly kind of in the forefront of your mind. But I think for me currently, it's definitely probably a lot more inward and personal change where I want to start. I mean, of course, going to be voting in 2022 and voting in the LA county elections, and you got to do all the small stuff. I compost everything at home. I live in a plastic free household, and there's a lot of these little things that you can do to change. But I think if you're looking at if you're standing at the toes of a beast, and you're looking at it and that beast is going to be a hard beast to take down and hard beast to fight, I think you need to just start to learn how to cope with the reality of where you're at. And so I think that's kind of inward stuff, like meditation, stretching, yoga, just being in tune with myself and my surroundings more so. Still just a theory. I'm getting started on it. Yeah. I'm still very new to all this.
No, I like that. Well, it's true, though, because our actions collectively can make a big difference. Mm-hmm. So if you're just taking steps in your life and leading by example, and I mean, you're a person of influence because, a lot of people love what you do, the art that you create for the world. So, I think it boils down to, fucking Atmosphere said, the world keeps a balance through mathematics defined by whatever you've added and subtracted. Right?
I like that.
And that's a fucking universal law, dude.
Right.
But, it's I think it's just those things, right? It's you're putting out art, you're putting out good energy.
Right.
People have a positive experience when they, do anything that's, that's kind of in your ecosystem, right? And you're being mindful about your waste and, what you're using, what you're not using and shit like that. And so it's that equation for you is you're giving a net positive to the world.
And that's the hope, right? Is that inspiration can hopefully set others down on their own path. And, as I learn more, and like, I don't want to go too hard on shit that I'm not fully educated on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit that I am not fully educated on a lot of really important shit. So you're probably not going to see me like giving speeches at
you're not taking a big fucking
doing right. So I think until I'm at that point, like I obviously would want to be more involved and more vocal and more. But if I can make an impact on the people around me and the people in my ecosystem, like you said, I think that's like a really great start.
Yeah. I do think that does make a difference because it's just, I think we're all kind of just pulling the curtain back at this point in life. And like we've been living in this society that is really just, it's just been set up for so long to allow, a few select people to just really thrive and, maintain power and all this shit. And it's at the cost of our environment, our happiness, all this shit, our health, and it's like, and again, it's not some crazy theory. It's true. I mean, it's just like, if you could look at any kind of big issue and see why there's some financial interest that things are the way that they are, right? Like why does the government tell us that we have to eat, 3 meals a day and it should be like this percentage protein and this percentage thing. And it's like, that's not based in science at all. It's based in, the sugar industry lobbying the government to say that shit. Or you could look at the fucking fish thing or look, whatever. Right. But we're starting to pull that curtain back and kind of see what it really has been.
Yeah.
And now we're like, all right, well, fuck that. I don't need to go down that traditional path and kind of fall in line.
Right.
And, live this lifestyle that ends up being not healthy and, just doesn't lead to full fulfillment and all of this shit.
Right.
And it's like, we all can't go and just fucking do everything that we want, but we can just have more conversations like this and just try and make it a little bit better,
And just more acceptable to like think like this and to act like this and without being like, I mean, I remember the first time I even saw a plastic free grocery store where like you pull up, and Whole Foods does this now, you pull up with your own fucking jars and you take your pasta and you pour it into your jar. And I remember being like, that's some crazy hippie shit. Yeah. Now I'm doing it. So it's like, I think when we're 80 and we revisit for Cam Meekins Show episode 7,654, I think we're going to be like blown away by what the kids are doing and like what they're talking. I mean, even like Gen Z, my little cousin, she's Gen Z through and through. And I'm like, I think there's so much annoyingness of like over-wokeness and like cancel culture pure-ism. It's almost just like, listen, like we can't fucking attack everybody. Let's like go after the, like that to me is almost distraction of the bigger problem. Yeah. Granted, like, let's get all the fucking bad people out and let them know that they're being bad people. I'm all for that. But I think kind of this like purism, like who is more woke than who is this, who is that. And if you're not perfectly pure in every aspect of your life, you need to go run away and live in a hole. That to me doesn't feel productive because people learn, people make mistakes. Like, we're all trying to grow together. And I think like, again, that community of like feeling like, like you used to, like when you were growing up, you'd make a mistake and you'd be reprimanded by the people around you and by the community. And then you were able to come back. And like, I think, that's obviously different, but like I'm seeing a lot of this Gen Z, like hyper purist shit, which scares me because no one's ever going to be fully perfect. Yeah. We just need to all learn from our mistakes and learn our lessons and try to build a better person on top of that. So, but on the flip side of things, I'm also seeing them not even question things that like we used to maybe make fun of in high school, or maybe not me, maybe not you, but like
you would see that shit.
You'd see like really cruel shit being made fun of in high school, and I don't even think those are like questions anymore for a lot of kids,
Yeah.
which is exciting. Super, super exciting.
I know. I wish I could really see like what, because I don't have a younger brother or a younger sister or anything like that. But, I've got, nieces and nephews and shit that I'll kind of see every once in a while and see how they're operating and shit like that. Like, I wish I knew exactly how it really was, like, for kids in high school now, fucking sophomores or whatever.
Yeah,
like what
she's
the
a
fuck they're
junior.
talking about.
She's my plug to everything cool.
Yeah, no, right. I hear you, because we're fucking old heads now, dude. We're vets.
Listen to us old heads.
We're just fucking shooting the shit on a fucking podcast now. That's what it's come down to, dude.
Hey, bro. I'm happy to be here.
No, but yeah, man. I mean, I think that's where it's tough, because it's like, obviously it's really important to fucking collectively speak out against this shit and and deal with these issues when they come up, and make people understand that like it's not cool. It's like there's a fucking zero tolerance policy on a lot of this shit, which is a good thing,
of course,
for sure. But also little younger kids have a tendency to also kind of just mob up and group think things too,
which
and
has
so
been
sometimes
hella helpful for a lot of
in
things.
a lot of situations it's helpful, and then sometimes it crosses the line of like it's just like the new way of like almost like bullying.
Sure. Yeah, like
because
mob mentality.
Yeah, right. It's like
Twitter mob shit.
Let's just zero in on this thing and kind of just harp on it without fully knowing the facts of the situation.
And take no leeway at all.
Right.
I guess that again, kind of like the final thing I'll say on that from my side of things is like the longer we keep fighting with each other, and the longer we are distracted with these seemingly massive issues, the longer that the people who are just standing above all this are going to just keep making money, keep fucking the industries up, keep fucking the environment up. There are terrible Democrats. There are terrible Republicans. Try and break out of even that thought. It's not red, blue. It's not black, white. It's not left, right. It is a much grander thing that if we are focused and together and unified, I think that we can really do some really incredible, powerful shit that's going to change the world. But if we're fighting because I bought a pair of shoes that have like a fucking Satan that like Lil Nas X. What are we really? You're gonna put all your energy into shitting on Lil Nas X for like this video? Like, get the fuck out of here, guys! Like, let's do more productive shit.
Right. Well, and I think it's about looking at like, you have to look at the context of each situation and look at like, Lil Nas X, great dude, doing a lot of great things. Like, just it doesn't need to be this whole thing, man. But take it in a more calm,
much more important shit.
Yeah. So I mean, where do you get that kind of fucking positive vibe from, dude? Like, is that a thing from your family? Like,
it's an act. It's all an act. Just wait till the cameras shut up.
Right. No, I've seen it, dude. No, I'm just, yeah, like you're just a fucking like lighthearted dude, I feel like.
Thank you. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing. I was fortunate growing up and had access to a lot of shit that a lot of people didn't, and I have a loving family that's still together, and I have two older brothers. I probably owe the majority of it to my two older brothers, because they put me through the ringer, but then also their friends would come over and like shit talk me to like no end, to the point where you got to grow thick skin and you kind of got to be on your toes and joke back and talk shit back. And here I am, like a 6-year-old talking shit to this like 15-year-old, and so I think a lot of that has been, that plays into just feeling positive about things and feeling positive about the outlook. I'm definitely a confident dude. And again, I think probably a lot of that played into air, which, 18 years old, your success keeps building and building and building, and you're pulling up to frats to play shows, and
you're younger than the fucking kids in college.
You're younger than the kids in college, and you got all the bros like, I got an ounce back at the fucking thing and just got a brand new bong. And not to say that can go to your head, but like, it helps to solidify a sense of confidence, which I just want to be positive. Like, I listen to positive music all the time. I make positive music. I try and worry about how other people are feeling, and I'm conscious of stuff going on around me. And I like to think that, like you said, what are you putting into the world? I want to feel like I put a net positive into the world.
Yeah.
Versus, just consuming and being a dick. So it's
just taken.
But I mean, of course, sometimes I feel it's funny because I've been definitely like moodier lately going through the pandemic and everything. And I'll talk to my family or some of my best friends. I'm like, you all right? And I'm just like, I'm fine. Like, what am I not allowed to have a range of emotion?
Yeah,
like,
right.
do I have to be positive?
Dude,
all the
you're
time?
Carter, bro. Where's the fucking good vibes?
Come on. They'll be here tomorrow, but they're not here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just try to stay positive.
Yeah. No, I hear that, man. I hear that. You know what I really wanted to ask you is, so how did the whole Air project come about for you guys? And the reason I'm curious is because
we saw
each other from the fucking ground up, and I feel like before we end this podcast, we got to talk a little bit about that aspect
100%.
of it because it's such a cool thing. We're both out in LA now. We've both had these long careers, and we've. I mean, I got to tour with you guys on your last tour together.
Yeah.
Which was fucking epic.
Yeah.
You guys were fucking killing it.
So
and
much fun.
seeing you guys go on that trajectory that you're
Right.
talking about was so cool because it did seem effortless because the music was just so fucking dope and you guys just curated this vibe
Right.
that was just so authentic. And I think kids just gravitated towards it, dude. And seeing you guys fucking sell out House of Blues.
Yeah.
And coming from, basically, my town, like same region, like that whole area, right? Like just seeing that shit. And also being a dude who was doing the same kind of thing too.
Right.
Was so cool. And I'm just curious how it in the early days, how it formed. You guys were going to high school together and just were like, let's fucking jam or?
Yeah. Well, we were in a four-piece band, freshman, sophomore, junior year. Took it like, I don't want to say way too seriously because we took it the perfect seriousness amount, but we took it very seriously. We would practice like 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. We kind of were like a little bit of a Chili Peppers knockoff band, but we were fucking good. And the work ethic was there. I'll admit a lot of that work ethic came from Dave. Dave is the hardest working motherfucker I know. If he wants to do something, he is going to do it. Like, he will not stop, and he won't fuck with anybody who's not going as hard as him. So like, I was accustomed to just working hard on music, which was not something I had really ever done. I mean, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I was like producing beats and making shitty rap songs just for fun, crank out a song every 3 months kind of thing. But so the band split up because it kind of came to a point where it was like, we're going to take a year off and like, we're going to go as hard as we possibly can on this after high school. Just to the point where it's like, parents step in and are like, nah, I don't think you're going to do that. Like, right. Or like, nah, like that could work for you, but that's not going to be. So the band kind of split up, unfortunately, and other circumstances. But then without skipping a beat, Dave was just like, yo, you want to come over? Like, I got some of these beats that I've been making on my computer. Cause he had always been making beats. And the switch from, having a 4-piece band that can just plug in and play to producing on your producing on your laptop, that was like still relatively early
for sure. Yeah.
Days for just like a kid with a laptop producing in his basement. So I remember him playing these beats. And so here's where I think Air stood out is because, well, so you were already in swing, like full swing. I think, what was it? We were both 2011.
Yeah, we were
right?
both 2011. And
so were you junior year when you shot like Rain and like started putting out your first
I think it was
mixtape?
like the end of junior year. Yeah, because I was like really starting to get some buzz junior year, and then coming into senior year, shit was already rolling.
Right.
And and I think Rain came out sometime around that time, and but even there was some stuff before that too that was starting to get love.
Early
on
stuff,
fucking good music all day,
of course,
and shit
shout
like
out
that.
Tim.
Yeah, so like I had Tim on the podcast too. It was fucking dope. But so kind of 2010,
right?
Like my junior year, shit was already starting to go in that direction. And I was like, all right, like maybe I can turn this into a career.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think part of the reason maybe we grew more quickly than a lot of the other people in our space at the time was because a lot of people were just like getting beats and then just rapping on them.
Yep.
whereas David was producing like songs with guitar and bass and like drums and piano and like it was songs, but then I was kind of giving it like the frat rap thing. I was kind of like rapping verses on top, but also I was singing rapping, which a lot of people weren't really doing at the time as much, or it wasn't as prominent. But like I learned that from Cuddy. I learned that from Jack Johnson. I learned that from like early Drake. And so I think kind of that combination of like rock music, or honestly, it wasn't even rock. It was like chill stoner. Just having the guitar
in there.
Yeah, it was like very stonery, like echoed out shit. And then Dave, who didn't sing much at all. I mean, never sang in the 4-piece band. He started just singing the hooks out of nowhere, and he'd throw a bunch of like reverb and echo and shit on his voice, and it was just like, this is a fucking vibe.
Yeah.
And it was just like kind of these stoner jams where it wasn't so much just like hard hitting boom bap drums with just like a crystal clear rap on top. It was this like stonery hip hop guitar shit that was happening. So I think a lot of the reason why it did work, or at least felt like it was in a bit of a different arena than, you know, your stuff and I think like Huey and like, you know, a lot of the earlier guys who were coming up. I mean, fuck, that was when Chance was coming up.
Yep.
Hoodie was already more established than we were at the time. Sammy, of course. Was because it almost had this band feeling to it.
Yeah.
Also, I think the fact that we were a duo probably was helpful too, because it was like, if you don't like tall, blonde guys, maybe you like short, little Jewish guys. choose your fighter.
Yeah.
So we definitely offered a little bit of everything for everybody. But I mean, you were ahead of us by, I think, only like a few months in terms of being like, okay, how can I capitalize on what's happening with Asher Roth? How can I capitalize on what's happening with Mac Miller? I mean, that was when Kids was blowing up. Like, that was when Mac was smashing. Like, and what he did was get your homie who has a DSLR and just walk around your local park, call up your buds, tell them we're shooting a music video. They're going to go, holy shit, what? Like, and they're all just going to show up. They're going to mob out in the back in their fucking Mitchell and Ness snapbacks, and they're going to wear their fucking...
The style was just
the
crazy
hockey jerseys with the lineup and the double studs. And he started the Kid Next Door, like, rap look.
Right.
Where it's like, that could be your best friend. Like, that could be your best friends down the street who always are making beats. Like, there was no image. There was no massive... there was just no, like, I'm a celebrity, so I'm going to put on sunglasses and slick back my hair and wear a leather jacket, and, like, that's going to be my thing. It was like, nah, this is just me. Like, I'm just walking around. I'm just doing what I do every day. And, like, that accessibility is what shot him into the stratosphere. And then I remember just, like... we just looked at that and we were like, let's fucking copy this.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing.
What we were like, a lot of us were trying to do.
Well, and I feel like you know, seeing what you guys were doing, it was like you guys always had the fucking dope photos coming out. You know what I mean? Like, you guys were like, I feel like you had a good system to it with fucking great photos. You know, the fact that you guys were the duo, it was so unique. There was such a demand for shit at that point. Because, you know, Sammy had come out and some of these dudes were starting to pop off. And so, like, and the blogs were becoming a thing.
Right.
And this is what I was talking about with Tim Weber, was like, at that time, it was all about, you had your iPod and you wanted to be the dude who had the aux at the party or in the car and be like, oh, you haven't heard of Air?
Right.
Like, let me put you on game. And, like, you held the fucking keys. You were the cool kid if you had the
on your iPod, right? Absolutely.
And so it was all about like getting the MP3 from fucking Good Music All Day or any of these places. Piff. Yeah, Dat Piff. And then you were the guy, because everyone's like, yo, what was that song that you played? Like, I want to hear that shit. Nowadays, everybody has everything on all the different platforms.
Every hours of the day.
And so it's like, you know, there is none of that anymore. There's no curator anymore of like the crew.
Right.
Like the guy who's doing the music.
You send shit around, or maybe you make a playlist and all your boys subscribe to it, but it's different. It's a different thing.
It's just so much easier to get the file now. Right. Or you don't even have to have the file. It's just on the cloud.
Right.
you know, but you actually had to have the MP3 file back then. And so, you know, there was just so much demand because it was this like new way to do this shit.
Totally.
And you had the iPod and everyone was kind of doing this shit. And then like, you know, a couple of these dudes started to really blow up, and particularly in Boston, you know, Sammy was just fucking killing it. And I saw what he was doing.
Right.
And I was like, well, I could do something similar to that too.
Right.
You know, and I can just, you know, I knew that I could really rap.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just need to like get it out there, get it to these blogs,
Yep.
do these videos that aren't overly complicated, but just showing.
Hunter shot Rain, right?
Yeah.
And then we nabbed him from you.
Yeah.
Real
And
quick.
everyone was using the same
like
dudes.
5 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
We
And
wanted
like,
Rex Arrow, seeing Moosh and Twist doing
I remember
their shit.
Hidden Max was your guys' guy
Yeah.
for a while,
Oh,
and like
yeah.
I wanted to fucking work with him because I was like,
Yeah.
fucking, these dudes are killing it. But yeah, man, I feel like it was just such a cool moment in time because there was out of nowhere there was so much demand for this shit, and then you guys came along and were so unique in this world of people that were all kind of doing the same kind of thing.
Sure.
And you guys had a little bit of that because you were rapping in this way that was like so unique, but it was like such a cool contrast with Dave's vocals and the vibe of the music,
The guitar and the effects. And
yeah. So it makes sense.
yeah, it was
why
super
it worked like it did.
distinct at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a fun time, man.
So
It was a
much fun.
time, dude. And I remember we did a show together in one of the towns around there.
We did the Wellesley show.
Yeah, the Wellesley show.
In that like bowl, that grassy bowl.
Yeah. And
Yep, we opened up for you, and then we did Canal Room in New York.
Yep.
With Upper West.
That was fucking
Shout
lit.
out Dougie. He's
Yeah.
fucking crushing.
Ron
it these
Artest
days.
came to that show. I don't know
What?
if you know that or not.
Get the fuck out of town.
I have a picture of me and Ron Artest.
Really?
And backstage at that show, bro. I swear to God, because I was working with some, you know, I mean, you know how it is. Like at that time, like I knew nothing about like the fucking music industry and shit. And I feel like we were young kids, right? So like our shit was starting to take off.
Yep.
And then these critters just
these,
start
like,
coming in, and they're just like, "Hey, you guys,
so
what's
many
up?
like
What's up?"
old head DJs
Yeah,
would like
dude.
hang around and be like, "Yo, I can like get you all these like fucking cool things, all these
I run
free
this
clothes.
management
I run
company."
this."
Yeah.
And it was like, "Oh my god, sick! This is
Yeah.
all huge." And then you
Dude,
realize
what?
like
You worked with fucking Bobby Brown in the 90s?
that's
Like,
all
it's
just
crazy.
like the Instagram scammers
Yeah.
now who just
Literally.
show themselves as Instagram
Yeah,
scammers,
right.
but these were real ass people.
Yeah. We didn't know anything like that back
No,
then, dude.
not
Like,
at all.
And I keep saying back then as if it's such a different time, but it really is because there's just so much more transparency now.
I know it's
You
a
know?
completely different game.
Yeah. But anyways, so like I was running around with this guy. I was running this management company, and so he was trying to like sign me to the management company and shit. And one of the things that he did was try and kind of fucking like wine and dine me by bringing Ron Artest to the show because somehow he knew Ron Artest. I think he was playing for maybe he was playing for the Lakers at that point, but they were in town against the Knicks or something, or maybe he was playing for the Knicks. I don't know, but he came to the show and he watched both of our sets.
And he loved you?
He was fucking with it, dude.
Huge Cam
He was
fan?
fucking with it. I haven't seen him in a while. Meta World Peace, but
Wow.
this is 2010 probably. That we were in the building. dude.
Such an interesting flex.
Yeah, it was nuts.
But
man.
bro, Ron Artest's gonna come. All right, cool.
Like, oh, shit.
cool.
Okay, all right.
Let's
Let me
see what
sign
we
the
can
dotted
do.
line, dude. Shit, man. But no, it was a good time, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, dude. This has been fun going down memory lane a little bit, man.
Absolutely. I'm glad we got to reminisce. I'm glad we got to get deep.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to talk about the new shit, the
Fuck
old
yeah.
shit, everything in
Fuck yeah.
between.
So, check out the Surfer Girl EP. Fucking Pete, my guy Carter on Instagram. Hit him with some deep mushroom suit thoughts.
Mushroom suit thoughts.
You know.
I love that. Thank you for decomposing responsibly.
You know?
Yeah.
It's the Cam Meekins show. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you doing this. We'll
Always,
have to do it
dog.
again, bro. This is history right here, too.
I know. I mean,
History.
for real. That's
Fucking first episode in person. Couldn't have done it with a better dude.
Thank you, man.
So you always been solid to me, man, and I appreciate you coming on. It's the Cam Meekins show. We out of here. Peace.